Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jen. I will be going by Jen from now on. This is not like a pronoun thing. This is not like a oh blah blah blah. I just feel like using my actual name. Feel like using the word Jinx is cute. It is my gamer name. It is my gamer tag, but I don't know. I am an adult at this point, so I feel like using my real name is a bit of appropriate, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, we got a new setup. Let me know in the comments how you guys like it. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. I'm just a regular old college student at Cal State Dominguez. And if you're not new here, welcome back to the chaos. School starts next week. It's been a minute. I am hoping that this semester isn't as chaotic as it was last time. As you know, in the last video I kind of talked about all of that, so if you're curious what happened, if you want to know what the tea is, go ahead and watch that last video. But I just pretty much had no time to upload, to talk about live, to do anything except like struggle with the struggle, you know what I'm saying? Like the chaos, the academic stuff was just super out of hand. Not like out of hand, I was just really busy to the point where I just couldn't like, there was nothing to upload. Not that there was nothing to upload, but I couldn't upload. I couldn't like talk about live or whatever because I was just too dang busy studying, working, and going to school, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, as you can see here, I've got my little stuffies joining us today. I was reading a lot this past semester, and I'm thinking that I want to start more bookish content, if that makes sense. And so I'm going to talk about all of these little stacks of books that I read this semester. According to my Goodreads, I've read 19 books within pretty much like since September, so like roughly about 3 months worth of books, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty good. That's like an average of almost like 4.5 to 5 books a month. That's pretty good. I'm gonna put my little my coffee cocoa, if you will, down. I ended up getting the Copico brand from the 99 Ranch Market, and then I just mixed in some Nestle hot chocolate and chef's kisses. It's so good. But back in September, let's talk about it. Okay, so from left to right, going down the line, okay, I had to do some rearranging there. Now everything is in order chronologically from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from September to December, you know what I'm saying? So let's talk about the first one. We have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I'm gonna give this I won't lie, when I read this, I wanted to give it a 3 stars just because we kind of lost the plot at the middle there. I had no idea what was going on. But at this point, now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, let's go ahead and give it a 3.5 star. If you don't know what the When the Moon Hatched book is about, I'm gonna go ahead and like read the description low-key. So pretty much, as an assassin for the rebellion group, Fear the Ath, Rave's job is to complete orders and never get caught. When a rival bounty hunter turns her world upside down, blood spills, hearts break, and Rave finds herself imprisoned by the Guild of Nobles, a group of powerful fae who turn her into a political statement. Pretty much a bunch of stuff goes on in this book. I'm sure you guys know a bunch of stuff goes on in a lot of books, but essentially we follow a girl, Rave. She's an assassin. It's kind of giving Throne of Glass vibes just a little bit. She ends up seeing this guy and she wants to hunt him down. She's like, hey, you're weird, let me just take you out real quick. And actually he's been looking for this person, not her specific, well, it is her specifically, but we're not supposed to know that, spoiler alert, so sorry. But he's been searching for this girl, and we don't know why, we don't know who she is, we don't know what's going on, we don't know the tea, but we find it out later. This book has a bunch of dragons in it. It's got a bunch of secrets in it that you find out throughout the book. I won't lie, it's kind of a clusterfuck, because every time I try to explain what this book is about, like to my friends, it's different every time. Like she gets imprisoned, the main character, and then the main male character is like, hey, what's up, I'm about to break you out, and she's like, nah, no thank you, I'm good. And so they end up having to like journey across the world. She's like a prisoner, and I don't know, it's cool. It's got dragons in it. We find out a bunch of stuff. There's like a bunch of diary entries in here, which I also kind of liked. It was like it was a cute little like touch, and we got to find out like in the past, like, hey, who this girl was, what happened, and everything else. And then at the end, I called it. There was a plot twist, and I was like, bro, that was obvious, at least to me. I was like, I knew it. I knew they were, I'm not gonna spoil it though, because it's pretty good. Okay, 3.75 stars. I do need to reread it because I just don't know if I was like overstressed or whatever, but I just couldn't like, it took me a minute to get through it. It took effort, it took willpower to finish this book, because we don't DNF on this channel. At least I never have. So next we're gonna go on into my favorite series this year. Yeah, honestly, out of all these books, a lot of them have 5 stars, but this was my favorite series. So first we're going to talk about the Six of Crows book. We follow a group of 5 characters going on a heist with $40 million on the line. Yeah, you realize how much that could pay off essentially with having stuff afterwards to buy a house, to live rich and not have to worry about it. Anyway, $40 million is on the line. These group of people have to break into this prison and like capture a guy and then bring him in to get that $40 million. It's super high stakes. People, like, my heart was thumping. I was at the edge of my seat. It was super awesome. And there's a twist at the end, because of course there is. And I was like, oh my god, ain't no way. There were 2 twists actually. The first one I had no idea, or no, I had a thought. I was like, I wonder if, because there is like a drug in this book, there's like a pretty much like crack cocaine, super addictive, gives speed essentially. The drug speed, it just like heightens your abilities, specifically for the magic people, it heightens their abilities, but it gets them super addictive after that first dose. But something happens at the end to one of the characters and I'm like, no, I saw it coming, why was I right? But she ends up, I mean, I'm not gonna say too much else. If you read it, you read it. If you haven't, I'm not gonna say anything. But there also is another twist that happens to another one of the characters, and I was super sad about it. But we follow up super quickly, pick up right where we left off with the Crooked Kingdom. Another 5 stars, another really good book. Where essentially we already finished the heist. We got bamboozled at the end, and now we are trying to get payback, because what the heck was that at the end there? We're taking care of we're wrapping up some loose ends, we're taking care of our people, and we're getting revenge, and it's so sweet. There's a lot of like, the leader, his name is Kaz, he's incredibly smart. He's got like there's so many times throughout the book where his group of friends around him are like, ooh, he's got that scheming face. We know what's up. We know what's gonna happen in a little bit. What's he gonna tell us? What's the tea, dog? What do we need to do? And it's super good. I need to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy. That's like on my TBR for the year. I just want more of Leigh Bardugo. She is just so amazing. Love her writing. Just, I can't say much else. But anyways, next up we have the ACOTAR series. Y'all. The series was a lot, I'm not gonna lie. It's a bit of a it's pretty much starts off with A Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR by Sarah J. Maas. I've read her Throne of Glass series, and I also this year read her Crescent City series. This year I did a reread of her Throne of Glass series. It is my favorite series by her, but it's also super long, a lot of world building, a lot of characters, and a lot of like just gut-wrenching, heart-stopping, trauma-inducing stuff that happens in there, and you're just like, what the heck, bro? How are you gonna leave me like this? Like, why? But this is ACOTAR, completely different. It's a bit of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. We follow our girl Feyre. She's just a regular old poor person like me. No, I'm kidding. Way poorer than me. I'm kind of blessed to be in college, you know what I'm saying? But we're talking back in the freaking 1600s where magic and fairies and all that stuff exists. So we have Feyre. She's over here in the woods trying to track down some meat for the family because it's in the middle of winter and we're poor and we need sustenance, you know what I'm saying? So she's in the woods and she ends up coming along this wolf, and she's like, you know, fairies, they do exist in this world, and you don't really look like a fairy, but fairies are also known to shift into animals, but they're supposed to be like super big versions of the animals, and you look like a regular sized wolf. So I think kills him off. Turns out that was not the best thing to do. It was indeed a fairy. I'm not gonna say too much else, well, I mean, he's not really relevant for whatever the wolf was is not relevant for the rest of the series. But anyway, she gets a knock on her door, and lo and behold, his friend showed up, and he's like, hey, you killed our friend, we're gonna kidnap you now, and then either you can either be kidnapped or you're gonna die, and you just have no other choice. So she's like, well, I don't feel like dying, so I'm gonna go with y'all as long as my family's provided, because like I said, Wherefore, we're poor and I'm the breadwinner, so you know, cough up them coffers, you know what I'm saying? But she essentially goes with this guy back to the castle. They fall in love, some stuff happens, and honestly, after the first book, the entire story changes. Like, A Court of Thorns and Roses doesn't matter anymore after the first book. The MMC that you know, they were falling in love, they were doing little kissy stuff, doesn't matter anymore because Akamav is where our real love interest comes in. His name is what is his name? Resand. I won't lie there. I forgot his name. I'm thinking Zayden because I read Fourth Ring recently and I'm like, ooh, Zayden, blah, blah, blah. His name is Resand, completely different. So our love interest for the rest of the series is indeed Resand. She only has to go through essentially two love interests. She has like the little poor village boy, and then she has Tampon here. His name is Tamlin. The Sarah J. Maas community, y'all know, his name is Tampon. Not unlovingly named Tampon, but anyways, and they have like a good old time. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens. I won't lie, this entire series is indeed a 5-star, but that first book, it just took so long. It took a lot, like the When the Moon Hatched, it took a lot to get through. So I'm gonna give this one a 3 stars. But because of the rest of the series was a bit of like 4-star and above, I'm gonna say that the whole story collectively is a 5-star. After this, we have ACOTAR, A Court of Wings and Ruin. Then we, which is pretty much like finishing up the story. It's essentially a trilogy with like a cute little Christmas edition. Pretty much like the rest of the story is already wrapped up, and then this Christmas edition is like, hey, we did that shit, we got through it, and now let's have a Christmas celebration and celebrate and be cute and stuff. But also, since the rest of her family is now also, there's like a bunch of like stuff that happens in there. Basically, like at the end of it, her sister is like the new MC, if that makes sense. So pretty much A Court of Silver Flames follows her sister Nesta and her love story with Cassian. It's pretty juicy because during the entire series, so sorry, this is like my first like book related content type thing, so not really good at like retelling it, not like retelling it, but like recapping it essentially. But throughout the entire series, we're pretty much like after Resand comes in and stuff, our new like antagonist is not who she, like the antagonist in the first book wiped out, got like taken care of and wrapped up in the entire series. Could have ended right there, to be honest, but of course, since it's a 5-book series, we have to have something else to fight. So now we're fighting the big baddie. The big baddie dies, of course, as every big baddie gets wrapped up and killed throughout every other series in ACOTAR. And then we have the Christmas edition, and then we have A Court of Silver Flames, which covers the sister. I guess the sister was like a really she's not really an important figure throughout the rest of the series. Like through the first book, she does not really important. Second book, Third book, she's kind of important, and then she becomes more important at the end, and then she, you know, the book gets wrapped up. But because we're so curious about her, this is her love story, and then it's like everything's wrapped up already, so we just find some cute little ancient trinkets, and then not really much else happens. But it is a good book. It is a really good book. This is like a side note. Book Off has been the main source of my book buying location. It's, if you don't know, if you're like not in California, Book Off is essentially like the book Dollar Tree. It's like secondhand books that are lower priced, and I found this beauty originally like $40 to $50 in a Barnes and Noble location. This is the special edition. This is the collector's edition of the ACOTAR like book, and it's super freaking awesome. I love it. On the back it has Feyre in the woods, and this is like, obviously we're back in the woods and then we're about to shoot the wolf. Like, this is the scene that they're trying to create, and then the pages here at the edge have like this little like vine rose like edging, and it's just it's so cool. when I get the urge, not sure if I ever will, when I get the urge to reread this series again, I'm definitely gonna read the first book and as the collector's edition. But this is the ACOTAR series, completely finished, completely read, 5 stars overall. But that first book, I get it, it's here for the world building, but I could have done without it. Next, we read 2 novellas. Let's start with Spells for Forgetting. This is definitely a small town romance on an island. The FMC's name is Emery Blackwood, but she's actually not the main character. She's not like the main protagonist. Our main protagonist is August. August Salt, there we go. And he's been banished for reasons that we find out later, but he has to come back to sell his mom's cottage. I forget the reason why he has to sell the cottage, but he has to sell the cottage. And everybody's like, hey, why are you here? We don't want you here. You did a really bad thing a long time ago and you need to leave. But he's like, hey, I can't because I have to sell the cottage. So it is what it is. And so he pretty much, we find out, like, it's kind of like a whodunit type thing, because whatever August did back in the day, we try to clear his name for some reason, and we find out the reason later that he wasn't actually the killer of whatever the heck happened back then. So it's kind of like a magical realism. There is magic in here, but it's not, like, nobody actually used the magic. There was a couple of times where somebody almost did but backed out, and then there was a moment back in the day where somebody did use it and it ended up killing them, and like that's like a whole other thing. But that's the Spells for Forgetting. I give it about a 3.75 star. It was cute. It was like my first novella of the year and I did enjoy it, but it wasn't my favorite book of the year, you know what I'm saying? There were other ones that were much more awesome, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, next we have You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thao. Everybody was talking about how this is a really sad book, and I saw this at Target and I was like, this looks like a sad book, so maybe I'll like shed a few tears on it. And while it was good, I don't know if it was like, I did cry a little bit at the end there, but I wasn't like, it wasn't gut-wrenching, it wasn't like heart-stopping, like holy crap, I'm in tears, I'm sobbing, I'm having a trauma response, you know what I'm saying? But pretty much we follow Julie Clark, whose man ended up getting into a car crash and dying, unfortunately. So we're following her. This is not a whodunit. This is a post, like, oh, he's dead. And she's like going through the motions of depression, of grief, all of the stages of grief. And she's pretty much pushed away all of her friends and family. And she just doesn't like, she's not really going to school. She's not trying to move on. She really doesn't want to move on. She's like, why did this have to end? I want my man back, but of course he can't come back, and it's my fault, and blah, 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 blah. So Pookie's going through a lot, you know what I'm saying? she's going through a bit. But one day when she's running home from, I think, like a cemetery, she tries to visit his grave, and it just doesn't work out, and she turns tails and runs. She is a girl. Is she like, what is it? Is she a Pisces? Because this girl be running from her problems. But she's running away from trying to visit his grave to move on. And she ends up tripping. It's raining. It's a whole sob story. She's like sitting on the asphalt in the middle of not like in the middle of the road, but like in the middle of the sidewalk being like, oh my gosh, woe is me. My man's not here anymore. This sucks. So she tries to like call him, knowing that it'll go to voicemail so that she can hear his voicemail, hear his voice. You know what I'm saying? I've never had somebody like very close to me die in my life, so I can't relate to the grief that this girl must be feeling, but it's definitely portrayed in the pages. But instead of hearing a voicemail, she hears a voice, her man's voice. And he's like, hey, I miss you too. I'm here. Let's start talking, and let's like pretty much he's here to help her get over him. So we follow throughout the book. It's a lot of nothing happens. It's literally a girl getting over her man, and we go through that, and then they have a conversation at the end that ends that relationship, you know what I'm saying? It's because okay, I give this a 3.75. It could be a 4-star, but there was just a couple of things that like didn't get me there, but it was definitely good. The official like saying goodbye was definitely a scene where I was like in tears on the way home reading. I was just like, bro, this is sad. This is really sad. But anyways, that is You've Reached Sam by Julie Soto. Next, we have the Crescent series. This is also a Sarah J. Maas series. It is her most recent one, and if you haven't figured it out already, Throne of Glass is the OG, like, my favorite series of her. It is also, I believe, her first series that she ever wrote. It's pretty much like the premise is of Throne of Glass was, what if Cinderella was an assassin? You know what I'm saying? That's like pretty much what it is. We follow Selena Sardathian. She's like a secret assassin, or she's just an assassin who's a secret princess who also becomes queen. Like, that's essentially the whole trope. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. This is, what if Belle from Beauty and the Beast was illiterate and a pick-me? That is what my friend had told me. He's like, oh, well, if Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass was this is the premise of ACOTAR. And I was like, you know, for the first couple of books, you're right. But she does get redeemed at the very end. But anyways, so for the Crescent City series, we follow Bryce Quinlan. Pretty much, this world has everything fairy. Like, it's not like, it's a bunch of like different people. So if we go back to the Throne of Glass series, elves are not really known. Like, they're a race that died out a very long time ago. ACOTAR is like, the elves live in a different city, but we don't fuck with each other. The elves, the fairies, the angels, the warlocks, the blah 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 blah, like, everybody is welcome, but they're all separated into different houses. So pretty much the different houses are the different names of books. Save one. Let me go to the first couple of things. So the 4 houses of Midgard, we have the House of Earth and Blood, which is like the shifters, the humans, which is like normal people but that have like a little bit of magic or none at all. Then we have the House of Sky and Breath, which is the angels, the fae, the sprites, and anybody who's blessed by either Solis, which is like the sun god, or Luna, which is obviously the moon god. And then also we have a House of Many Waters, as the name suggests, anybody who could live in the ocean. So like, even the sea otters have like a whole like personified personality, like they can speak, they can talk, they can whatever. But we also have like the merfolk, the kelpies, the water beasts, anybody that could live in the ocean and be enchanted. That's pretty much what it is. And then lastly, we have the House of Flame and Shadow, which is the reapers, the wraith, the vampires, dragons, necromancers, anything that could like low-key survive in hell and have a good time. That's the House of Flame and Shadow. But in the first book, we are following Bryce, and she's trying to find out who killed her best friend. So we start off literally in the beginning. We're like, hey, we're going to a party, we're doing all the drugs, and it's really funny. Sorry, I'm going back and forth with the Sarah J. Maas series. Throne of Glass and ACOTAR are kind of like mostly YA, borderline adult. This is full adult. This was her first like adult centered fantasy fiction romance type situation, and they said, you know what, we're gonna start out big. We're gonna introduce all of the drugs and give them fairy names. So we're doing synth, we're doing cocaine, we're doing alcohol, we're doing everything. We're fucking any single person that is breathing. Doesn't have to be a fairy, doesn't have to be the same race as I am. It could be a lion shifter, it could be a wolf, it could be a kelpie, it could be a human being. We're fucking everybody. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot in the first 50 pages. But so Bryce and Danica are best friends. Danica is like the leader of a wolf pack, and they're all hanging out, they're all talking, they're all like partying and stuff. And Bryce ends up going off after like a really shitty date and then going to party by herself with her 3 best friends. Danica has to stay home because it's pack night. She's the leader of the wolf pack, and she has to like, you know, hang out and do some whatever stuff. It's like super important. So Bryce is off with other people, her other best friends, and they're living it up. She gets home super wasted and finds out that, mind you, she's like in the thick of a good trip. She's like, whoa, all the pretty colors, all this, that, and the other. She's seeing stuff. She's got like, I don't know, I've never been on like high key LSD, so she's having a good time. Anyway, she's going home, she's seeing all this bunch of stuff, she's seeing hallucinations, and she's like, whoa, why is the ground all wet? Why is the ground all slippery? Essentially, Danica and her pack of wolves got brutally eviscerated by this demon, and she's like, what the heck? So that's like a lot of trauma, and now we got to find out who the killer is. So that's what the entire book is about. She's finding out that Danica has a bunch of secrets that she never told her. At the end of the book, she's like, who was my best friend? Because how did you know all of that and not tell me? You know what I'm saying? So she finds out the killer, she kills them, it's blah blah blah. The next book, The House of Sky and Breath, she continues having fun with her love interest. They're not quite together yet until like the end of it. Turns out they're mates, and actually they're from different like classes, they're from different races. So she's essentially a fairy screwing an angel, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. The House of Sky and Breath, they're continuing their relationship, they're having fun. He's in the military, so he's got to do like a bunch of stuff, and then she's off as like a bitchy secretary with in an antique shop, so she's hanging out there. And then it's really weird because The House of Sky and Breath, I feel like kind of went through second book syndrome, which I still to this day, it's kind of like a vibe to me. I couldn't tell you the actual definition, but it's pretty much like the second book didn't really make sense, but the third book tied everything together, and you're like, oh, light bulb, that was a good book, you know what I'm saying? But essentially in the first book, she killed off the like one of the big leaders of like the angels, and then through the second book, she's like, okay, something's been going on, something fishy is going on, and now we need to investigate. She investigates, finds out that that her world leader is essentially like, not the presidents, but like there's these beings, and I forget what they're called, but they're like higher than the angels. They're essentially gods. But we find out that they're low-key intergalactic parasites that feed off the world, and she was like, holy crap, we need to take care of that. We need to kill all of them off and see how we can do that. So she ends up low-key time traveling, parallel universe traveling into ACOTAR. They're like, who the heck are you? And they're speaking old fairy language, and she's like, oh, hey, I know old fairy language. Apparently this is like the home planet of the fairies that are in here. It's super weird. They kind of like start cross-culturaling, that's not the right word, but they end up interlinking a little bit of the book. It's not really relevant to this series. They just kind of find out that they were once controlled by these higher beings that she's trying to kill. So she finds out the knowledge, she brings it back to her world. I won't lie, in the third book, the House of Flame and Shadow, it was definitely the best book out of like all of them, but there were a few moments. I don't know about you guys, I like sci-fi to an extent. I like sci-fi until we're talking about time traveling and parallel universes and like the Spider-Verse and just like me in another time, like that shit too big for my brain. So when we were like traveling to different universes, like going to ACOTAR, and then at the very end there's a scene where they just straight up go into outer space, and I'm like, whoa, okay, listen, space is like, that's not my territory. I read this book thinking that we were gonna stay in fairyland and talk about like angels and stuff, but we're going out into space. You kind of high-key lost me. It was a good ending. It was definitely everything tied together. We knew how it was gonna end. I don't know, maybe it was like a sensory thing with my like not like autism, but like it just completely lost me. Like the plot, I was like, wait, why did we have to go there? But it made sense at the end. It was cute, it was good. All of the people got linked up, everybody's dating each other, everything's good. And that's the Crescent City. I definitely give these a 5-star. I would say the House of Earth and Blood, probably like a 3.5, 3.75, leaning towards 4, like a high 3 stars. Definitely the House of Earth and Blood. I rated all of these on Goodreads 5 stars, but like this was definitely more of a 4-star. This was a high 4-star, and the last one was a 5-star. So that's the Crescent City series. By the time I finished the Crescent City series, it was actually finals week, so I didn't really read as much, but by the time finals was over, girl, we got right into 4th week. I won't lie, I've been putting off these two books for a minute. I was like, look, it's just a Divergent mixed with dragons type thing. Everybody's hollering about it. I didn't want to get on the trendy bandwagon. I wanted to read this because it interested me, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to be like a FOMO, fear of missing out type of vibe. Like, I did want to read it, but I didn't want to read it because everybody else was reading it, you know what I'm saying? But pretty much, we have Fourth Wing here. Fourth Wing is definitely a Divergent meets dragons. We're hanging out at a dragon war, or at a, yeah, essentially a dragon war academy. We follow our girl, I'm so not good at remembering names, I'm so sorry. We're following Violet Sorengale, who has to navigate sucking at everything. Her mom is like the general, the president of the school, and she's like, hey, you wanted to be a scribe? You wanted to work in the library for the rest of your life? Huh? Tough shit. You're gonna be in the dragon quadrant. And she's like, everybody dies there. Divergent type stuff. If you know, I forget the faction of Divergent, but the ones that are just super athletic and kill everything. I haven't read the series in a while, but anyways, she's like, I'm not trying to be up here riding dragons and risking my life and going through the whole thing. Like, just getting through parapet is crazy, and parapet is like this 18-inch across high beam, essentially. When I say high beam, I'm talking like 250 feet in the air. The dragons could snatch you and bite you off at any moment, and you have to get across that without accidentally dying. So she has to go through this. She survives, yeah. She goes through boot camp, essentially, like dragon training boot camp, and then gets her dragon. She ends up actually getting 2 dragons, slay. And then she and her love interest, Xaden, who's like the rebel of, like, literally the actual rebel, like, he's a rebel child. His dad was like part of this rebellion and he ended up dying, and then blah blah blah. But they end up getting together, not really getting together, but like, you know that they're gonna end up together at the end. And then yeah, so I'm so sorry, I had to like rethink of like what the plot actually is. Pretty much during what's called the war games, Violet and Xaden accidentally, like, they got called somewhere else. Thought that they were gonna, like, they were still in the war games, but they got called somewhere else, and they're like, oh, why are we here? Xaden gets a note from his superior, and he's like, holy crap, we've been set up, and now we are introduced to Venin, which are like the demons essentially of the world. Think like zombies, but it's not an infection. Like, pretty much, if you can draw from a dragon, or you can draw from a griffin, which are also introduced into the series. Like, yeah, dragons and griffins don't get along, but they draw from the same source. Like, the writers draw from their dragons or their griffins, but it's super taboo if you're drawing from a different source, i.e. the earth. People will like literally suck up all of the magic and all of the essence out of the earth to be powerful, and that corrupts you, drives you insane, and it turns you into a venin. Like, the first time that you use it, you're done. You can't go back to normal. And so Violet and Xaden are like killing all the venin. They're like, hey, we're about to be wiped out. They lose some people along the way, it's whatever, and they're wondering the entire time why they haven't been told this as a child. They're like, hey, Violet's like, hey, I had a storybook that my dad gave me that like talked about this stuff. And Xaden's like, I've never heard that. Like, what are you talking about? Of course, like, he actually knows, but he's supposed to be playing it off because this is like a big secret of this world. Like, they're not supposed to know about it. Their ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors took care of a problem back in the day and was like, we're gonna erase this entire problem from history. We still don't know why. But the entire series is just like, the first 2 books are out right now. The next book comes out, Onyx Storm, comes out on the 22nd of this month, which I'm super excited because it's low-key an early birthday present. Shout out January 30. Aquarius unite. But anyways, I'm super excited to go to the pre-release event. I'm also planning on picking up the One Dark Window and Twisted Crown series. Twisted Crown duology, because they have special editions at the Barnes & Noble, and I'm like super excited to go get them. But anyways, I would say that this one is definitely a 5-star, but Iron Flame I would definitely say is more of a 4-star. Like it just didn't live up. I feel like it went through a bit of a second book syndrome pretty much after. It follows events like directly after the ending of this one, and then this is all about like, hey, we need to get the word out, and then we need to like do everything we can to prepare to fight these venin, and then they do end up fighting everybody. They convince some teachers to let them to join the fight. Essentially, some stuff happens. Like that's the entire book. They pair up with the Griffins. They all band together to fight the venin, and then I'm guessing that the Onyx Storm book is gonna like wrap it up. We're gonna like kill the venin king or something like that, and it'll be all like, it'll go down in history of glory and stuff like that. So this is definitely getting a bit long. I'm so sorry. If you've stayed until the end, thank you. I'm hoping that the next couple of bookish videos aren't as like, I don't know, like I'm hoping that they make more sense. I'm definitely gonna prepare a little bit more, but that leads us to our last series of the year. I won't lie, I read a couple of these books on the first days of January just because like I like to read things by series. If you can't already see, like I just want to finish everything and find out exactly like all that happens, and then I wanted to include this as like a, I did start this last year, but I also like finished it on January 3rd, so you know what I'm saying. But I'm gonna get some tea. Holy crap. Whew, I was parched. Okay, last but not least, well, low-key least, this was one of the lower tier books that I read this year. We have the Cruel Prince series. I liked it, but I didn't like it that much. This is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. We follow a pair of twins, but really we're only following one twin. She just happens to have a twin sister. Her name is, the twin's name is Jude, and then her sister's name is like, oh my gosh, what is her name? I forgot her name. I'm really not good at remembering names, but Jude is essentially like a high schooler at this point, but in the beginning she's probably about like 10 or 11, or even like, I think she's like really young, and she's living in the human world, but her stepdad, essentially like her mom was on the run, and her stepdad is like, he hunted her down, killed her, and saw his daughter and was like, oh yeah, you're coming with me. And because like he saw the two other girls, Jude and her sister, he's like, oh, I can't like just leave them there to fend for themselves, so actually you're gonna come with me, and then I'm gonna take you to the fairyland and bring you up as like children of the Fae, even though you're human. So Taryn and Jude, remember that the twins' name is Taryn, they're essentially in like a fairy school. They're being bullied because they're humans. They don't really like, they're essentially like worms, insects, like they don't matter to the fairies. But a group of fairies, specifically, I think it's like a group of 4, they're like, they hate these guys. They're like, listen, you're the scum of the earth. We're gonna bully you. We're gonna make sure that you hate us, blah, 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 blah. We're gonna make your lives miserable. So Jude eventually stands up to them, and Taryn's like, no, Jude, let's continue to try to stay hidden. They won't fuck with us. They won't like, they'll leave us alone if we don't make trouble for ourselves. And Jude's like, nah, dude, like, they've been bullying us since we were babies. Like, let's not do this. I'm just tired of this crap. So she stands up for herself. They're all laughing at her. They're whatever. And she's like, I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to be a knight one day. And this one guy, his name is Cardin. He does end up being the love interest, but I don't know. I didn't like their start. He is a bully. I've been bullied before. I don't like bully romances I'm starting to see. It was just a bit, like, I get it. She's a scum of the earth to him. She's an insect, and then he, like, low-key likes something about her, and he can't figure it out, and they get together later, and blah, 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 blah. But she essentially has to work with him to protect like the king or some crap, because a big like shift is going to happen in a little bit. The king is going to be passing down his crown to one of the heirs, and the heir that is supposed to be having the crown passed down to is actually like Jude's she's supposed to be his knight or some crap. Like she's supposed to take care of, not like take care of him, but like protect him. And some big thing happens and the heir doesn't actually be king, and then now she's like, holy crap, what now? Her dad's doing some super shady stuff and they're trying to put somebody on the throne who will actually be a decent king, and she's like, you know what, Cardan, I'm gonna make you king because then I can control you. I already made you promise me, blah 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 blah. So that's what you're gonna do. That's the end of this book. It was cute, it was nice. I give it a 3-star. I give it a 3-star. It was a bit, it took a bit to get through. The Wicked King, pretty much Cardan's king, Cardan's hanging out, Cardan's chilling, and he's doing whatever the heck he's doing, and then actually Jude is the person that's ruling the entire place because she's controlling Cardan. But after that, some stuff happens. People don't actually know that she's controlling Cardan. It's supposed to be like a secret. But at the end, some cute stuff happens and Jude gets sent to the mortal world as like a banishment type situation. 4-star. It was cool. Wasn't actually what I wanted. I don't know. I gave it a 3-star. It was cute. It was cool. I just didn't really. The vibes weren't really there for me. I got bored. I got bored is what it was. Queen of Nothing. I gave this a 4-star only because it tied everything up at the end and it was cute, and yes, Jude ends up becoming queen and blah blah blah, and everybody respects her now, and then she defeated the big baddie, she like took care of everything, her dad got banished and blah blah blah. Like, it was cool, it was cute. I give it a 4-star. Still kind of boring. Last but not least, you guys, we have How the Queen of Elfhame Learned to Hate, like little short stories. It's actually really cute. We follow Cardan in this one. I feel like this was kind of like a fan service type of book from Holly Black to the readers. They were like, hey, you probably want to know why Cardan's such a piece of crap at the beginning, so let me go ahead and tell you what happened when he was a kid. So really, really, really quickly, we essentially get like a montage of what like how Cardan was brought up. He was pretty much kicked out of the palace. He got a really crappy like oracle divination type thing, and his dad was like, yeah, you gotta go. And he's like living on the streets, living in like some tavern pub, like sleeping on hay. And as he gets older, his dad is like, you know what, let me just take you in, let me just, you know, be nice, whatever. But on the flip side, you're gonna live with your shitty ass brother that's gonna beat you to grow you into like a good man, you know what I'm saying? So he's grown up on cruelty, wickedness, trickster stuff. Like, it's fairyland. It's not like the cute little pixie type. Like, we're talking some wicked nixie like evil and trick stuff, like just like the darker side of fairyland. That's how he was brought up. And then once he meets Jude, he's like, oh, what is love? I like this, I like you, I'm gonna be good now, but still gonna have like that trickster vibe, but kind of be more funny and not actually cruel. So I gave this one a 4-star. It was really cute. I gave it a 4-star because it knew what it was. This was not supposed to be like an actual book. This was like a short story, cute, like it's illustrated. As you can see here, like it's really sweet. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. If I was a kid, I would love this. The problem is with this series, not really a problem. I know that the problem is me with this one. If I read this as a kid, I would love it. Like, this is some stuff for maybe like 12, 16-year-olds. I'm reading this with like a 21-year-old mind. My frontal lobe is low-key developing just a little bit, and I'm like, I'm kind of bored, but as a kid, I would totally eat this up. Same thing with You've Reached Sam and Spells for Forgetting. These are both like these 1, 2, and then 3, like the entire series, they're completely YA. The rest of these are more like on the end side of YA, probably like 17, 18, leading to adult. And that's why I gave these ones higher ratings compared to these ones. Anyways, I've read a total of 19 books from the span of 3 months. Really enjoyed it, really had fun throughout the entire thing. I'm currently reading 5 Broken Blades by Mai Cortland, and I'm going to be reading a few other books this month and then do a little monthly wrap up at the end. If you liked this video, go ahead and like it. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and put it down in the comments below, because this is definitely like a unscripted, horribly descriptive reading wrap up of the year. This is also my first video, so go ahead and give it take it a little easy on me. I'm not really good at remembering stuff, and I just should have come more prepared, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, my plushies, and I thank you. I've got some good old coffee cocoa. You guys should definitely try it if you have some coffee and cocoa at home. That's gonna be it from me this week, guys. I will see you. Honestly, I have no clue because school does start up next week. I'm probably gonna do like, I'm not gonna make any promises because I have no idea how this stuff is gonna go. But I'm just gonna continue to make cute little videos, more readish, bookish content, and then I'll just continue living life. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.